Welcome back to Cybersecurity Threat and AI. I'm Lora, and today we're diving into the breach-filled trenches of 2024. It was a year that exposed massive cracks in our digital defenses. Joining me is Derek Langford, cybersecurity analyst and incident response specialist. Derek, welcome back.
Thanks, Laura. Always good to be here. Though I've got to say, 2024 gave us more cyber incidents than most teams want to remember.
No kidding. From hospitals to national defense systems, the attacks weren't just frequent, they were overwhelming. Let's start with one of the biggest, the Change Healthcare ransomware attack. What happened there?
This was a nightmare scenario. In February, ALF V, also known as Black Cat, launched a ransomware attack on Change Healthcare. They got in through stolen credentials on a Citrix remote access portal. The kicker? That portal didn't have multi-factor authentication. It crippled pharmacy systems, halted medical billing, and disrupted care for millions.
Right, pharmacies couldn't fill prescriptions, hospitals couldn't get reimbursed, and patients were caught in the crossfire. I read that Change Healthcare paid a $22 million ransom just to stop the bleeding.
Exactly, and that doesn't count the long-term damage. We're talking about the records of up to 190 million Americans. Names, treatments, billing info, all potentially in the wrong hands.
And that set the tone for the rest of the year. Another huge breach that made headlines was the National Public Data Incident.
Yes, that one came in April. A data broker, National Public Data, and its contractor Jericho Pictures leaked almost 3 billion records. It's one of the biggest leaks ever. And this wasn't some dark web exploit. It was a mismanaged database holding names, social security numbers, dates of birth.
It's terrifying to think that kind of sensitive data was sitting there unguarded. The company folded, lawsuits piled up, and authorities eventually tracked down the hacker in Brazil.
It also raised a major red flag. Companies that collect this much data need to be held to the same standards as banks or hospitals. No more data hoarding without responsibility.
Then we had the Snowflake breach, a little different in how it played out.
Right, Snowflake itself wasn't technically hacked. The attackers, tied to the UNC 5537 group, also linked to Scattered Spider, used stolen credentials from Snowflake's customers who didn't enable MFA. So while Snowflake's platform held strong, the customer endpoints didn't.
And that opened the door to a huge data heist. AT&T, Santander, Ticketmaster, all affected. I think it was something like 50 billion call logs exposed.
That's correct. It was a goldmine for fraudsters, and it proved that the weakest point in cloud security often isn't the provider, it's how clients use it.
Speaking of Ticketmaster, that breach was massive on its own. Over 560 million users' data reportedly stolen?
Yes, by shiny hunters. They went after user data, names, contact info, even partial payment data. The scale was so big, it reignited the whole debate about consumer data storage and PCI compliance.
And let's not forget Dell. 2 incidents in 1 year?
Yep, in May, a brute force attack exposed 49 million customer records. Then in September, another breach hit around 10,000 employees. Both attacks were traced back to a reseller portal that didn't have proper restrictions in place. Another example of third-party access becoming the backdoor.
This theme kept coming up, vendors and third-party services being the weakest links. It's shown up in the UK Ministry of Defence breach too, didn't it?
Absolutely. That attack came through a payroll provider. Names, bank details, and personal data of over 270,000 military personnel were exposed. For a government system, that's a pretty serious lapse in vendor vetting.
Moving to the healthcare sector again. Ascension Health faced a brutal ransomware attack in May.
That one shut down operations at 140 hospitals in 19 states. It reportedly started with an employee downloading a malicious file. Classic phishing vector. Diagnostic tools, patient records, even surgeries had to be rescheduled.
It's a clear reminder, one click can break a system.
Exactly. And these attacks don't just cost money, they delay care, they endanger lives.
Meanwhile, in Indonesia, their national data center was hit hard in June.
Right, by the Brain Cipher Group. They disrupted 282 public services, immigration, education, you name it. They demanded $8 million, but the government refused to pay. Recovery took weeks, and in some cases, services are still operating with backups.
That attack reminded the world that even governments can be digitally paralyzed if the right ransomware hits the right server.
And that brings us to the bigger point, Lora. These attacks didn't just target data, they targeted trust, infrastructure, even national stability.
Exactly. 2024 was the year cybercrime hit a breaking point, and yet in almost every case, the attack wasn't some zero-day exploit. It was stolen credentials, misconfigured access, outdated systems.
Right, this isn't science fiction, it's sloppy security. The defenses failed because the basics were ignored. No MFA, no employee training, no segmented networks.
So if there's one takeaway for companies heading into 2025,
patch your systems, audit your vendors, train your people, and never assume you're too small or too big to be a target.
Well said. Derek, thanks again for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Lora.
And thank you all for listening. For more breakdowns on cybersecurity trends and threats, visit us at cybersecuritythreatai.com. We'll be back next week with a fresh episode. Until then, stay secure.